r/AskReddit. What's the worst date you've ever been on? I went out for dinner and a movie with a guy. I tried to chip in money at both, but he insisted that he cover it all. At the end of the night, we are sitting in his car in the parking lot of the restaurant we had just eaten at, and he asks for a BJ saying, I bought you dinner and took you to a movie, it's the least you can do. Thankfully I live nearby. I hopped out and walked home. No, I need to pay for our date so you'll blow me later. I went on a Tinder date with a guy who is now in my contacts as do not answer penis pic. Prior to the date he seemed normal. We texted and talked on the phone, then arranged to meet at a restaurant bar. He was cute but definitely bitter about something. He was from California and apparently didn't like this new city we were in. He started talking about X and blowjobs and complaining about how uptight everyone here is about X. He invited the waitress to a party his company was throwing, after sending back the french fries he ordered. I showed him a picture of my dog on my phone. He took out his phone and showed me a picture of his penis. We walked out of the restaurant together to get our cars from the valet. My car came first and I left. He texted me later that he had my sweater. Apparently I dropped it on the way out, and if I wanted to see it again I'd have to hang out with him. RIP sweater. This is a post I shared in a different thread. I went on a date with a girl from OkCupid. It was late-ish, about 9 PM, and she sent me a message out of the blue. We talked for a while, and she wanted to meet up with food. I hadn't had dinner yet, so I agreed. We were to meet up at a local diner. Her profile picture was reasonable. Not my typical type, but not awful. What showed up, however, was not great. She was about 5 feet 2 inches and somewhere between 190 to 210 pounds. Rotund is the best word. That would have been fine if she wasn't. Toadish. I'm trying to be nice here. That would have even been okay, but it wasn't just her. She had brought a friend along, a 16-year-old. I was 22, she was 20. To compound that, her friend had brought her toddler along. Oh, and her friend brought another friend. So here I am with 3 girls and a toddler that I don't know. All 3 of the girls had brought Monster Energy into the restaurant with them. We sat down at the table and it just went downhill from there. The toddler ran out of juice in her sippy cup, so the mom filled it with Monster. She then let the toddler play with a sugar container, one of the shaker style ones. Big cylinder with a little flappy thing. She promptly poured sugar all over the table and started licking it up. Meanwhile, all the girls are laughing at the toddler and having a great time. They're talking amongst each other and not even attempting to include me in the conversation. After about 5 minutes of them ignoring me, they started talking about guys from high school. Long story short, I ate half a chicken sandwich, excused myself, apologized to the hostess waitress for the mess and the awful people, left her $50 and got the hell out. She and her friends were trying to get a free dinner, maybe? Went on a date with a guy who seemed really cool. He used to race bikes until he landed on his head after attempting a jump. During the date he told everyone we were on a date. Everyone. Told me he wanted to kill his ex-roommates. Asked the waitress to make the date more romantic, so she brought out a giant ice cream sundae, meant for 2 people to share. He ate it all by himself, and spilled ice cream all over himself. Bragged about beating the world record for the jump on which he landed on his head. Kept asking me if I was a gold digger, because he makes tons of money and needs to protect himself. Demanded separate bills, no big deal. All 4 of his credit cards were declined. Asked me if I didn't mind paying and he would get it next time. Not that there would be a next time ever. Told everyone that the date went splendidly. Gave me stickers to his welding company as a thank you for paying since his credit cards must have some kind of error. I think you accidentally went on a date with a homeless guy. Finally, a place to tell this story. I had a very disappointing date in high school. It was the dead of winter. Like -40 Celsius. We had gone to a movie, and the whole thing was really awkward. She didn't really seem to want to be there, was very detached. After the movie, and the bus trip home, she admitted that the only reason she even agreed to the date with me is because my friend had turned her down a few days earlier. I wasn't aware of that at the time. That a pretty big letdown and waste of time. But I figured whatever, I'll head home and find something else to spend time on. I'll get over it eventually. I got off the bus and just wanted to get home as soon as possible. At the bus stop there is a thigh-high railing around the front of the nearby parking lot. Instead of walking around it, I decided to step onto, and then over it. The second I stepped onto it, I realized it was coated in ice. I Charlie Browned the duck out. Just flipped through the air. Lost everything in my pockets. Ripped my pants from asshole to zipper. And then came down hard right onto the railing with my shin, fracturing it. It's still -40 out. I can't just lay there till help comes. So I fish around in the snow, grab my stuff, try to stuff my balls back into my pants, and stagger home. TLDR, it's not me, it's you, limped home balls in the wind. That TLDR is the saddest thing I've ever read. And I've read Cold Mountain. Edit, my first gold. Hi mom. Met her in an adult soccer league. Asked her to grab breakfast that weekend. She accepted. Picked her up, took her to a hole-in-the-wall diner, ordered a garden omelette. Throughout the meal she talked about all the shit she was into. Breath play, being dominated, being hit, but not too hard, whips and cuffs. As Kevin Hart would say, she was getting too kinky too fast. Got the check, realized my wallet was in my gym bag from the night before. I apologized, she paid for us both, and I took her back to her place. She invited me in, and I couldn't refuse as she had just bought me a meal. An hour later, after the dirtiest ex of my life up to that point, we were lying in bed when she gets a text and panics. Oh my god, you have to leave. My boyfriend got off work early and if he finds us he'll kick me out. This if the first I'm hearing of her so, and I realize that I just ducked a chick on her boyfriend's bed after she bought me breakfast with money he gave her. Duck. So I throw on half my clothes, jump into my car, and knock over the mailbox in my rush to get the hell out of Dodge. When I get home, I see that my rear bumper has a nice new crack. TLDR, took girl out for breakfast, forgot wallet, had to kinky ex, found out she had a long-term boyfriend, damaged my car in my getaway, and now she keeps texting me. Back in college, I was invited to an ice rink with a girl I liked and some of her friends. I did not know how to ice skate and I did not pick it up very quickly, but I wanted to try and impress her somehow. Well, I hugged the wall the whole time and made a fool of myself. The highlight was when I saw a flash of light as I fell in front of a group of people. Turns out I had fallen right at the moment someone took a picture, so my failure was immortalized forever. She took me back to my apartment and ended the relationship before it began. On a lighter note, the woman who is now my wife was at that ice rink on that night. We didn't realize we were there the same time until a year or two into our relationship and she exclaimed, "You were that guy who couldn't ice skate." Yeah, she didn't seem that into you. Guy told me he just recently got out of a long-term relationship so he wasn't looking for a commitment, but asked me if he could be my maintenance man, as he stroked his penis through his jeans. You met one of the Omegle guys in real life. He insisted on hiding his face the entire date, and that he'd only show me his, if I showed him mine. I was really young, probably about 15 or so. I was boy crazy. I had a crush on every guy who even remotely expressed an interest in me, but this guy, there are no words to describe this guy. His name was Jesse. We met through a mutual friend, and while he wasn't exactly my type, he told me he thought I was pretty and so, I wanted to give him a chance. A couple weeks later we decide to meet up at the mall for our first official date. He was very sweet, we were holding hands, you know, typical teenage bullshit. But then he got weird. Very weird. We're sitting on this bench, and he turns to me and stares at me right in the eyes and says, "Wow, when I look at you, and I look into your eyes I feel like I'm looking into your soul, Akoye." I'm 15 and desperate for an epic love story so I just smile. He goes on, "DFTB awesome, I know this seems soon but, I think you might be my soulmate. I can't wait until the day we can get married, and have babies and live together. We're going to have such an amazing life together." So let me recap. I'm 15, I'm on a first date, and my date just essentially proposed to me. I noped the duck out of there and never talked to him again. TLDR, hey, I just met you. And this is crazy. But you're my soulmate, please have my babies. He was more than 3 hours late, and was texting me telling me that he was 20 minutes away for 2 of those hours. As soon as he arrived, he tried to tell me to leave the part of the venue/dive bar I'd already paid into so we could go where he wanted, tried to start a fight with a friend I'd happened to run into, and called my aunt, who'd talked me into going out with him in the first place, a cock-blocking bitch. I just walked away from him after that last one, and we never spoke again. I waited so long because I liked the bands that were playing. I wouldn't have stayed if I was sitting around doing nothing. He got there just before the last band finished, but I'd had about enough of him by then, because he'd been telling me that he was on the train in the same place for 2 hours. We don't live out in the middle of nowhere, and he could have easily gotten a bus or tram the rest of the way in that time if there was a problem with the train. He never gave me a proper excuse, but I didn't really care at that point. I went on an online date with this guy when I first moved back home from college. We met up, and I have a habit of telling my parent I'm going out, I'll be back later without specifics, etc. Anyway, this time, she says just be careful and if he can't drive, get out the car. We were en route to our first destination and it was closed. So, he asked me where I wanted to go and I said, Hooters and bowling. I know, keep it classy right here. His driving was so reckless. I mean, really bad. Anyway, we ended up going across town because he wanted to take me to this one place. By this time I'd determined I'm not into him and I want out, so I just go along with it. Maybe we can be friends, right? His brakes give out and we end up having an accident. We ran into the back of a truck pretty hard and I jerk forward, glasses flying off. After the smoke settles, when I'm nervous, I start laughing. He asks if I'm okay. I said sure and I'm looking for my glasses and he goes, oh this is bad, really bad. So, I said why? No insurance? He says, no, I have a warrant for my arrest. He gets out the car and runs. As he's running into the sunset, he's yelling back at me I'm really sorry, I can't afford to go to jail again. The person we hit leaves. So, I'm the only one there and police show up. I had to call my parent to come pick me up because I have no friends in the area and of course, I gave the cops his info. I knew I wasn't going to talk to him again. The police gave me a ride to a gas station across the street as I was waiting for someone to pick me up. I leaned back, took a picture in the cop car, posted it on Facebook and tagged him in the picture. Somewhere in between the running he found time to get on Facebook and block me. Bad part about not just the accident, I didn't even get a chance to enjoy Hooters and wings. I've got a couple. Meet a guy from OkCupid. He seems nice, but never stops talking. After interrupting me for the 3rd or 4th time, I finally ask him, do you want to hear anything I have to say? He apologizes profusely, says you're right, I'm so sorry, and pulls out a pad of paper and a pen. He then jots notes as I'm telling him about myself and whatnot. I finally ask him what he's doing and he says, oh, I'm writing down things I want to tell you when it's my turn to talk again. Met another guy from OKC. He knowingly used pictures that didn't accurately reflect the way he looked, and kept saying you look just like your pics in shock. He then told me I reminded him of his mother. Like it was a good thing. Edit, didn't think this would blow up. I did end up giving guy number 1 a second chance. He said he was just nervous, but on our second date, he had burned me a CD of his favorite music, after I had already told him I don't really listen to much music, and had written 100s of decimals of pi out on the makeshift CD cover. I also hate math. He didn't really listen to anything I had to say, so I let him down easy. I felt kind of bad for the first guy. My brother was somehow like that when he was a kid. He loved talking and sharing and making opinions. He was kind of hyper, so obviously my family always tried to keep him to stay quiet for a bit because he could literally talk non-stop for hours. My father usually said that if he shut up for 5 minutes, he would explode from all the things accumulated he wanted to say.